Of standard 8, and our first chapter is sources of history. As we learn the history of medieval and ancient period in the last years, in this year, that means in the standard 8, we are going to learn sources of history of the modern period, of the modern era there. Basically, we are considered the modern era, the modern period as a British period or as a European period, right? So we will learn about the history of the modern period, of the modern era. So as we learn already in the medieval history, first three sources are the same one. We learn material sources, written sources and oral sources. But with the development, with the modernization, there are some sources included, some new resources included in the sources of history in the modern era, and that is audio, video and audiovisual sources. So one by one we will take look of all these sources. As I told you, first we are going to learn material sources, right? So as we discussed that sources of history from the modern era, we are going to learn material sources of the modern era. So basically modern era we are considered of a British period, right? Of a European period, that I told you already. So British rulers, British government and governance of the princely state at that time, they was ruling over the India. They made many things. They made offices, they made prisons, they made jail, they made buildings, they made residence of the officers, right? That all the things, that all the materials we are considering in the material sources of the modern history, right? For the study of modern history, for learning the modern history, we are considering the material sources there. And what I told you, which things are there? First one is the buildings and places, right? And in that building and places, there are the water tanks, water supply. So second one we are going to learn, and that is written sources, right? Obviously we understand by the name only which sources are in the written form. They are known as a written sources. So let's see some written sources first. Which are the written sources? Correspondence, foreign account, newspapers, biographies, periodicals, factory records, autobiographies and books. So they are the written sources. We are going to start from the newspaper and periodicals. Obviously we know in the modern history there was an invention of the printers, and as the printers was invented, there was a starting of newspaper. There was a born of newspaper and periodical. So what the information the newspaper is giving to us? The current event, the policies, right, of the current government. So of that time, newspaper we have available now, and that all considered in a written sources, and they are giving us information of the news of that time, right? The British policies of that time, right? What was happening of that time exactly? The total information we are getting from the newspaper, right? Which was published at that time in the period of modern Indian history, and that's why the newspaper included in the written sources. So we newspaper and periodicals. So some newspaper, as we know, right, as we heard about that newspaper from the modern Indian history, Did you know Lokmanya Tilak started Kesari and Maratha newspaper, right? Then Amrit Bazar Patrika, then Bahishkrit Bharat of the Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. That likes newspaper we know already. So let's see about Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar and newspaper. In January 1920, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar started the fortnightly Moknai. But later Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar had to leave for higher studies in England, and hence he handed over this newspaper to his colleagues. In April 1927, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar started the newspaper Bahishkrit Bharat. Through the medium of Bahishkrit Bharat, he wrote for the reformation of common people and bringing unity among them. Apart from this, he also started two more newspapers, namely Janta and Prabuddha Bharat. In written sources, that is map and drawings, right? We know very well about the maps, right? So in the British period, when they ruled over us, when they entered in India, they did a survey of India. Survey of India, they made a special department, and scientifically they made a survey of India. That means they visit each and every corner of India, and they made a map of India for their convenience. And in that map, they shown every city, every geographical structure of that city, right? Because they want to rule over the India, they want to stay in India for the business, for the trading. So that map and drawing again included in the written sources of modern Indian history. Third, we are going to learn oral sources of the modern history. So there are many oral sources. As the name oral, we know which sources are available orally only, right? They don't have any written or any photo proof there, only orally they are available. Their oral sources are transferred one generation to another generation orally, and in that way that sources, that things reach up to us, that known as oral source. So which are the oral sources? Oral sources like inspirational song, folk song, povadas, folk tales, interviews, OVs, right, and many more. So let's start with the inspirational songs. Inspirational song. So during the freedom movement, during the freedom fighting there, before the independence, pre-independence period, there are many inspirational songs was composed there. Many inspirational songs were prepared there, were composed there. Many of that inspirational songs still we have available in the written form, but there are many inspirational songs in not available in the written form, that unpublished inspirational songs there, and that was learned by the freedom fighters, that was memorized by the freedom fighter. And what that inspirational songs give us the information about, that is that they are giving us information about the situation, the condition of that period, and obviously that inspired the people for the freedom, right? For that showing the importance of the freedom. So that inspirational songs are considered in a oral sources there. Then povadas. What is mean by povada? Maybe you heard the povada of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, right? The povada means, povada is a song which is based on any particular event or any particular person there, right? As I told you just now, the povada about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, right? Or any event of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, right? So that was that is not in the written form also, right? That was learned or that was memorized by the people over there, and they just transferred generation to the generation orally only, and that's why that povada also considered in a oral sources of the modern Indian history. Let's move towards the fourth and last sources of modern Indian history, and most important source, as we say, of the modern Indian history, and that is video, audio and audio-visual sources. What is mean by that? Video means visual, audio recordings and all those things, audio visual, that films and all, right? So let's see one by one. First one is a photographs, right? As we know, in the modern Indian history, in the modern period of the world, we can say there is a too much development there, and in that development the most important innovation or invention was happened in that period, and one of the most important invention was photographs, right? We know how the photographs we have available, right? That is showing that photographs are showing the actual thing of that time, right? In the medieval period, the paintings we have available, right? But of the modern Indian history, the photographs we have available, and photographs are considered more authentic and truthful source of the history than the paintings. Paintings are depends on the painter, their mood, their viewpoint, their beliefs of the person, but photographs is showing you the truth, the authenticity, right? And that's why photographs are very much important according to the sources, according to the modern Indian sources for study the Indian history, and that's why photographs are considered in a fourth one, audio, video or the visual source, right? Photographs are available in the visual form. Then there is a recordings, as we know, right? Recordings are in a audio form, right? So recorders are also the very much important invention as a photographs of that time of the Indian modern history. So we have many recordings of that time, the speeches of freedom fighters, inspirational songs recorded of the freedom fighters we have available now for the study of modern Indian history. For example, Jana Gana Mana. What is Jana Gana Mana? That is our national anthem. And who wrote that? Who sung that? By Rabindranath Tagore, right? In their voice, the recording of Jana Gana Mana, that is of national anthem, we have available for the study of modern Indian history. We have available the speeches of Dr. Subhash Chandra Bose, right? So, and many freedom fighter speeches and all these things are we have available nowadays, and that we have that and they are helping us to study. They are helping us to study the modern Indian history. And next part of the audio, video and audio visual sources are the films. Films are considered the unique discovery of modern technology, right? What we know about the films, what we know about the video films, that is a combination of visual and audio of the recording, right? At both time we can see the video also and we can hear the audio also, right? And that's why the films also known as a unique discovery, the most important discovery of the modern technology. Dada Saheb Phalke. Dada Saheb Phalke established the base of Indian film history, right? He made the first Indian film, the first Indian movie he made. Dada Saheb Phalke was the founder, was the father of Indian film history, and as well as many videos, right? Many video clips or the films we have available of the Dandi Yatra of Mahatma Gandhi and many other movements of the Mahatma Gandhi, and they are again help us too much for studying the Indian modern history, and that all the things are considered in the video, audio and audio visual sources. What we learn? We learn the photographs, we learn the recordings, we learn the films. And it is very important that all the sources there, right? That is the material sources, written sources, oral sources, or that audio video and audiovisual sources, that all the sources we have to transfer to the next generation, that rich culture to the next generation, right, for their study, and that is our responsibility. So that's it for the first chapter, that was sources of Indian history, the sources of history of the modern India, right? So that's it for today. Bye bye. See you in a next video.